And we're live. Boom. Okay, first things first, I got to share this thing on a couple different feeds and streams. Welcome to Monday's breakdown, debrief, examination, deep dive into Grant Cardone's strategy of the week. This week, we're going to be talking about your big break, and I'll get you into that in just a second, right after I go share some stuff. How was your weekend? So for those of you just tuning in, regardless of the medium you're stumbling on this, hope you had an amazing weekend. Mine was pretty mild. Good weekend. I'll tell you what, I learned a valuable lesson this weekend about doing it anyway, right? You've heard Grant talk about that. It's one of our favorite closers, right? Hey, the money's too much. Hey, I understand the money's too much. Do it anyway, right? Do it anyway. So I'm going for a run, and the timing was correct, but the distance didn't start tracking distance until I was like 3/4 mile into the run, and I was like, so everything's off. And I was trying to hit a certain target and a certain goal and get a certain distance in a lower period of time, and it was jacked up. So like, I almost like threw in the towel. I'm like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna like turn around, start over, all that stuff. Nah, did it anyway. And it's so important to just literally do it anyway. That you can't let anything stand in your way, and so that's the most important part about this thing. Let me just put a comment here. What does Uncle G and Sly have in common? Question. Left out the D. But you know how important it is to like, hey, so success and attainment thereof is going to have obstacles along the way, even in like the most minute things, is going on a simple Sunday morning run. So the more you practice pushing through these little speed bumps and roadblocks that pop up in your way, the better off you're going to be, right? So let me just share post. Okay. That's shared. Let me share it to my full feed. I gotta approve it. Let me go approve it. Man, why does it take so damn long? It's fine. It gives more people time to show up. Approving, 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 approve. It's approved. It's approved. Okay. Maybe I'll edit this part out and post. One more share. That's interesting. Okay, shared the timeline. Here we are. Let's do this thing. All right, now, this week, if there wasn't any concern at all about copyrighted stuff, I almost said BS. BS, if there wasn't any concern about copyright BS, I would have opened this week's discussion on Grant's strategy of the week with a song. 2 songs possibly, but one for sure, but I didn't, because then it would have been taken down and then it wouldn't have been very fun. I probably won't even sing it later. I'll just recite the lyrics and hope that the Facebook voice algorithm bot doesn't totally pick it up. So we're going to be talking about your big break. We're going to review Grant Cardone's strategy of the week, where we look at you having your big break, the 3 steps to creating your big break. Okay, 3 steps to make it happen. So we start this off with looking at a couple different things. Number 1, what does Grant Cardone and Sylvester Stallone have in common? And why is it even up for discussion right now? Well, I'll tell you, recently those 2 guys shared a stage together and had a conversation of powwow. And Grant had this amazing opportunity that he basically kind of engineered on his own to get in front of Sly, be the guy that runs that interview, and have a conversation with him about how he's reached his level of success and how he broke out in his big break. So what's interesting about that, though, is Grant and Mr. Stallone have a few different things in common. Number 1, they're both Italian. They have had some trials. They've had real challenges in their life. Both of them in their mid-20s, completely broke, down on the luck, and they had to find ways to dig out and to persevere and to pursue and to stay focused. Okay. So one of the things that you're going to find if you look at Stallone's real life is that it's very much reflective of that initial film, Rocky, in terms of going the distance, not giving up, not staying down. Okay. Interestingly enough, if you haven't seen the movie Chuck, which is sort of the movie about the guy that Stallone based the Rocky character on, or at least was inspired by his story, very, very cool film. But so what we want to do in this one now is think about how does this apply to you, right? So if you're looking at Grant Cardone right now, or you're looking at Sylvester Stallone right now in terms of where they're at in their lives, and you're thinking, okay, what does that guy have to do with me? Because I'm here, they're way over there. Well, the reality is that they did some things along the way to get there, and those things are very easy to duplicate once you reverse engineer it, once you understand what it is. So the 3 steps that you need to create your big break. Okay, so if you're taking notes, write these down, because what we're going to do on this is we're going to break down the 3 steps. I'm going to give them to you first, then we'll break them down. And I'm going to give you some action ideas or some things that you can start doing with these 3 steps to start applying them to your real life and making them actually real for you, where you actually start doing the activities. We call them practical exercises. So the 3 is this: dream, you got to dream. Okay. 2, risk, you must risk. 3, persist. Okay, so let's look at each one of these a little bit more closely. Number 1, you got to dream. So whether it's the movie Rocky or the character of Rocky, okay, both of those things started with a dream. And it doesn't matter how big that dream is, whether it's how many people have told you that what you want to do and what your dreams are and where you'd like to go aren't real or realistic, or you got to be more practical, right? How many times have you heard that? Okay, so you're literally going to have to go against what everybody else is telling you about. Stay the same, fly under the radar, don't dream so big, don't set your goals too high because you're only setting yourself up for disappointment, right? What's that old saying about I'd rather shoot low and hit it than shoot too high and miss it, or whatever? Like, no, that's not the reality. Okay, whatever your dream is, you need to have it, and you need to dream big, and we'll talk about 10x in a second, right? But you need to set goals that are massive, that inspire you, that push you. And so I want you to think about, first and foremost, here's your practical, here's the activity that you want to do. First of all, just take all limits out. Just, okay, take all limits out. What's your dream? Maybe even what was your dream? Okay. What dream did you have that you talked yourself out of? What is your dream? What is the one thing that you want? You got it? Now, Stallone couldn't get a job acting. So what did he do? He made his own damn movie. He wrote the script. The script got interest, okay? But they weren't interested in him doing the role. They thought it should go to a more named actor in that time. He said, nope, either I play it or you don't buy it. I ain't selling it to you, okay? So that takes, takes a pair, okay? So, because he could have easily just sold the script, taken the money, moved on with his life, but then what? Right? Where would we be? So what he did, though, and that's the point in the strategy, is that he got around it. He got around the players. He got into the movie making space somehow, some way. His doorway in was through the script, was through screenwriting. Okay. So now for you, okay, now we've identified your dream. This is your action idea. Identify the dream. You know what it is. Okay. You know what that one thing is that you want. How do you get around it? What this also reminds me of is in The Laws of the Ring by Uriah Faber. He talks a lot about that. Not everybody can be a UFC fighter, but if you are in love with mixed martial arts, how can you get around it and make a living? Right? What is your dream? How do you get around it? Okay. So what I want you to do, this is your action idea, is to make a list of 3 things that you can do, 3 actions you can take that would immediately get you right up next to that one thing you want. You got to surround yourself with people of like mind. You need to surround yourself. You need to get enmeshed in the activity and in the thing that you want. Okay. So find a way to get close to it. That's how you start that. Okay. So first, dream, identify the dream, and then come up with 3 different ways to get right up next to your dream. Like right in there. Okay. 2 is risk. So the second, that's one of the themes in this movie, Rocky, is that you have to be willing to get knocked down. You have to be willing to get back up, and you have to keep, first of all, you got to be willing to step in the ring. Okay. So when we look at Stallone not being willing to sell the screenplay if he's not in the movie, right? That's a huge risk, especially when you're young and barely making it and have no money at all, and some dude comes and offers you like almost $500,000 for your words. Like that's a pretty hard thing to say no to, right? It'd be a hard thing to say to now. What year was this? Mid-70s? Okay, so that was a ton of money. So he knew though that he had to be the guy. He's the one to play Rocky. So what did he do? First of all, that's a huge risk to say no to the money and wait until somebody's willing to give him the part and the money. Okay, and that was huge. So he didn't want somebody else playing Rocky. He's Rocky. So what we need to do is think about some times in our lives where we have not settled, where we have not taken just enough, said, nope, I'm pushing for more. I'm pushing for all. I want it all. Now, why, in that particular situation, once you've identified what that is, why? Why did you not settle? What was it about that particular thing that you said, nope, and you were an immovable object? Once you remember what that was, once you identify what it was, how did it feel? That feeling is important. So you want to be able to come back to that, especially when you feel like settling. You want to be able to come back to that feeling in that moment, recognize, hey, I've taken the risk before, I've not settled, and it paid off. I'm doing it again. Okay. So that's the next thing I want you to do is think about a time where you've actually taken a risk. Why did you go for it? Why was it so important to take that particular risk at that particular time? What was the benefit from that? And then more importantly, what decision did you make after the result? Win or lose? So that might even be the exercise. Think about a time in your life where you took a risk. Recognize, why did you do it? Why was it important to take that risk? What was the result? Did you win or did you lose? Either way, what was the decision that you made afterwards? So let's bring this down. So a lot of you watching this right now, you're in sales or you're in business. So let's just talk about making a phone call. Okay, who is it? Who are you calling? It's a cold call. They don't know you, right? You're worried that they're going to say something awful to you, right? You got all this weird stuff going on, but you got to make the call, right? Because you have this thing that you believe in, okay? And you're going to take a risk. Now, regardless of how that phone call plays out, you win, right? You get the appointment. You land the deal, okay? It goes in your favor. You're going to make a decision about the validity of taking the risk, or the whole thing blows up in your face. You're still going to make a decision about the validity of the risk, and it might make sense to not put the outcome of the call on the validity. Because I promise you this, you will always feel better about taking the risk and missing the shot than regret later. Man, I wonder if I'd have done that. That hurts so much more. I promise you. In fact, let me get this little Cardone quote pulled up for you here. 1 second here. I'll read this to you. I actually send this quote to people when they tell me to stop calling them. I'll judge myself less for coming up short than never going for it. I'll judge myself less for coming up short than never going for it. So for you, it's very, very important to identify the value of just taking the shot. So That's what that action idea is about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to isolate what the dream is. We're going to put 3 things that we can do, actions we can take to get us right up next to what the one thing is that the dream is. And we're going to look at times where we've not settled, where we've refused to settle, and where we've taken risk and what it did for us in terms of our state, right? And the third thing, though, is you got to persist. You got to bang this phone to death. You got to beat it up. If this guy's not the right guy, maybe he is and he just doesn't know it yet, so you need to stay in front of him until he realizes that, which is something you caused. Or I need to move on to the next guy, okay? The solution to all problems in sales and business is a full pipeline. Grant tells us that every single day, okay? So when you think about, like, what is it that people, like, love so much about Rocky? The dude did not go down, ever. In all 400 of those movies, he never once would. Remember that scene in Airplane 2 where they show, like, Rocky 200? It's just like old dude. Anyway, but, like, if you start down the road to success only to quit, like, 3/4 of the way in, like, what was the point of that? Like, why'd you even start? Obviously, it wasn't important to you enough. It wasn't the real dream. Because if it's the real dream and you're willing to take the risk and take the result of the risk, good or bad, and then you throw in the towel, right? Like, and you will talk to people once you get into this sphere of Grant, and I'm guilty of this myself. You talk a good talk, but are you walking the walk? Okay? Because when it's time to put in the work, now, when the metal meets the road, or the rubber, whatever. Okay, when it meets the road, when it's time to put it in, like Grant's got another great saying where everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So you have to be able to persist. You have to be willing to die, right? That's what that whole burn the ships thing means. Like, hey, either we win this deal or we die. So Tim Grover, who's spoken in a couple of our growth cons, talks about it's not a sprint or it's not a marathon, it's a sprint. Like, it's all a sprint. Even a marathon is a sprint because it's timed. I was thinking about this yesterday on my run, right? Like the actual deal. And that one dude that just literally knocked out a marathon in 2 hours. So your life, your business, your personal goals, your spiritual life, all of it, it is not just a marathon. It is a sprint. So opportunities are going to pass you by all the time. People are going to be shutting the door on you every single time. However, if you persist and you stay there and you stay around those things that we talked about in the very beginning, what happens? Well, for Stallone, he went on to win like 3 or 4 Oscars and got nominated 9 times. First movie. I mean, first big one. Okay? And now what? It's freaking Rocky. It's like it's a cultural. It's part of American culture now. Okay, so your dream, whatever it was that we came up with in the beginning, it is not going to just. It's going to require persistence and a lot of it, and you might need to repeat these 3 things. You might need to keep dreaming, dream big, bigger. Okay, you're going to have to continue to risk, and you're going to have to persist. That's just the reality of it. Okay, so here's the third action idea. Okay, who or what have you not taken a shot at? Who or what have you not taken a shot at? Okay, the 10X rule, that book literally compels you to start thinking 10 times bigger and taking 10 times level, 10 times the amount of action. Okay, and if you haven't hit your target yet, whatever it is, or you did try but you quit, then all you need to do is get back in the ring and to persist some more. So what I want to invite you to do, your third action idea is this. Take Grant's formula for success every single day. Take a hard look at your target and then rate yourself daily on the 3 things. So you know where to put your attention. So you know where to persist. Okay, the 3 things are this. It's your attitude, it's your approach, it's the amount of action you're taking. You should be debriefing this every single day. So when you know what your big, fat, juicy goal and dream is, okay, you're willing to take the risk to get it, every single morning you should be looking at, hey, how's my attitude about all this? And I'm not talking like raw stuff. I'm like, hey, am I focused? Am I on point? Where's my attitude? Okay, am I looking for the good things to happen? Or am I just trying to avoid the bad? Okay. How's your approach? Is it effective? Is the approach you're on right now going to get you to your target faster, more efficiently, more effectively? If not, you need to work on it. Are you doing enough? Because look, if my attitude is right and my approach is solid, but I only make one phone call, not a lot's happening. Okay? So let's break these three things down one more time, sum it up, and then I'm out. Okay? Number one, you got to dream. Number two, you got to take risks. Three, you got to persist through it. Okay? So the actions are this. Once you've identified your dream and you know what that one thing is that you want to figure out how do you surround yourself, how do you get into that realm? How do you get into that sphere of people that are in that already? Okay. Two, that's going to require some risks. So you want to look at some times where you have taken risks and it worked out for you, or you benefited or you grew from it. Third thing we need to do is figure out how to persist every single day, moving towards the target. And that's going to come from making sure that your head's on right, that how you're doing it is correct, and that you're doing enough of it. All right. So this is the end. So at the end of Grant's blog, he talks about, we quotes from The Eye of the Tiger. So the last thing I'm going to just have you do to avoid any copyright issues on the Facebook. So when you go listen to that song, go listen to Eye of the Tiger and then ask yourself, do you have it? Do you have it? When you think about your goal, when you think about your dream, are you willing to persist? Are you willing to take the risks? Do you have the eye of the tiger? And if you don't, then you need to get your attitude right. You need to get an approach that's unbreakable, and you need to start doing more so that you get the eye of the tiger. Thank you for watching. Keep punching, staying tough, staying hungry. See you next week.